At a certain level of wealth, the more money you have, the more invisible it becomes. And here's what most of us get wrong. We assume that invisibility is the goal. Obviously, because rich people don't think about it. They definitely don't talk about it. So most of us accept that not thinking about money is the prize you get for making enough of it. But what if that's backwards?
Who the f am I to tell you what to do with your money?
My name is Priya, currently managing millions of hardworking dollars. Enough foreplay. Let's talk
Money.
Welcome to the F word. Smart money.
No bull.
Today, I want to talk about something that I've been thinking about since I got back from Portugal a few weeks ago. Over the holidays, I was staying at a fancy 5-star hotel about 30 minutes south of Lisbon. And over the course of several days, I noticed something strange happened. Actually, something didn't happen. I never pulled out my credit card, not once. Dining at the hotel restaurant, charged it to the room. Drinks at the bar, charged it to the room. Spa, charged it to the room. Bottle of water from the minibar, I assume it went on the room. And it's not just about pulling out my credit card. There was no transaction moment at all. No, how would you like to pay? Would you like to put it on the room? Little leather folder with my receipt in it, none of it. Everyone knew my room number, so when I was finished, I just got up and left. It was very slick. Whatever system they used, it was good because they didn't just know my room number. They knew my tea preference in the morning, what I like to drink in the evening, gin and tonic, for those who are wondering. And I actually had an amazing gin called Black Pig. I believe it's local to Portugal and you can only get it there. Anyway, it was fantastic. They knew what time I was going to have lunch. I tell you, it was nice. And then, even when I was checking out, I stopped by the front desk. They handed me a piece of paper and it had everything itemized. Meals, spa, minibar. I just reviewed it, signed my name, and walked out. Never pulled out my credit card. The entire experience, frictionless. And more to my point, transactionless. And that's what I'm thinking about. At a certain level of wealth, the more money you have, the more invisible it becomes. And here's what most of us get wrong. We assume that invisibility is the goal. Obviously, because rich people don't think about it. They definitely don't talk about it. So most of us accept that not thinking about money is the prize you get for making enough of it. But what if that's backwards? Invisibility isn't the achievement of the rich. It's just what happens when you have the right systems in place. And what if trying to make your money invisible before you have those systems in place is actually what keeps you stuck long-term and pushes you further away from your larger financial goals? Because here's what I'm seeing. High earners are increasingly living like the wealthy. Obviously, social media doesn't help. But we have frictionless spending with tap to pay. We have private drivers on demand. Generally speaking, life is actually designed for money to fade into the background. And the more that it does, the less we think about it, and the more successful, at least some of us, can trick ourselves into feeling. So what I want to talk about is why that invisibility is dangerous without systems and what you actually need to put in place so that not thinking about money becomes freedom instead of drift. Because in my time working with the rich and the not rich yet, the largest distinction I see is that the rich have put systems and structures in place to support money being invisible. So here's the question. Without those systems, is invisible money safe or stupid? Let's get into it. Let's talk about the illusion of effortless wealth. Here's what I realized standing in that hotel lobby. I felt wealthy in that moment, not because of the thread count, the view, which was epic, or even the quality of the breakfast spread, which was also amazing. I felt wealthy because I didn't have to think about money. And that feeling, that's the feeling we're all chasing, isn't it? When we imagine financial success, we don't picture ourselves reviewing spreadsheets or checking account balances. We definitely don't picture ourselves budgeting. We picture ourselves living freely, moving through the world without friction, never having that moment of, can I really afford this? We associate not thinking about money with having. And culturally, we've been taught that talking about money is tacky, that pulling out a wallet is so gauche, that the truly wealthy never even see a bill. It just gets handled. So as high earners, and if you're listening to this podcast, you probably are, we start to adopt that invisibility ourselves. We want that frictionless feeling. We've earned it, right? We start charging things without checking the price tag. We say yes to convenience. We upgrade our lives in 1,000 small little ways because we can and because it feels like what successful people do. But here's the problem. We're copying the behavior of the wealthy without the systems that make that behavior safe and sustainable. So let's talk about the danger of copy pasting wealthy people's habits. Here's what I see. You're making $250,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 a year. You've worked hard. You're talented. You've leveled up in your career and your income reflects that. Somewhere along the way, you start living differently. You stop checking prices at restaurants. You book a nicer hotel. You hire someone to clean your house, then someone to meal prep, then someone to walk your dog. You subscribe to services that you forget you even have. You say yes to the weekend trip, the spontaneous dinner, the Lyft instead of the subway, the list goes on. None of these things are bad. In fact, most of them are smart, right? Convenience buys you time, and outsourcing buys you energy. You're just optimizing your life. But here's what's happening under the surface. Your money is subtly becoming invisible to you. Your subscriptions auto-renew, expenses blur together. You're not entirely sure what you spent last month, but your income's high enough, so it doesn't even really matter. At the end of the day, your account balance always seems fine. This is where a lot of high earners seem to get into trouble because you're living like the wealthy with invisible money, convenience-first choices, but you don't have back-end systems that wealthy people have. You don't have pre-decided asset allocation. You don't have automated investing that happens before you see your paycheck. You don't have clear rules about what you spend on and what you don't. You have, let's call it wealthy people habits without wealthy people systems. And those kinds of spending habits without the systems to back them up don't build wealth. They just burn through your income even faster. So let's talk about what's happening behind the scenes with people who can afford to make their money invisible. They have systems you don't see. The person who never looks at a restaurant bill, they probably have a wealth manager who rebalances their portfolio. They have trusts. They have automatic transfers to investment accounts. They have a team of people whose literal job is to make sure their money is working for them while they're not thinking about it. The invisibility is earned. It's the output of structure, not the input. Here's what I mean. Wealthy people often operate with something that financial planners called decision architecture. It's not sexy, but it is powerful. It means that before they even spend a dollar, they've already decided where their money goes. Maybe it's 20% to long-term investments, 20% to liquid savings, 10% to charitable giving, 50% to lifestyle. The percentages don't matter. What matters is that the system runs first. The lifestyle spending is what's left over after the wealth building happens. So when they're at that fancy hotel in Portugal charging everything to the room without a second thought, it's not carelessness. It's not even confidence. It's just systems. And it's not just hotels. Like, think about luxury shopping. When you walk into Chanel or Hermes as a regular client, and I mean a real regular, not someone who bought a bag once, you don't pay at the register. You don't even see the register. Your purchases go on an account. The bill shows up later. Maybe monthly, maybe quarterly. You review it, you approve it, it gets handled. The payment moment, that transaction moment, disappears entirely. But here's what's interesting. The store only does that for people that they know are good for it. People with systems, people with structure, people with a back-end financial life that's so solid that the store trusts them completely. If you're walking out of Cartier with a receipt and a credit card charge, it's not because they're being cautious with everyone. It's because you haven't proven you're good for it yet. And that yet is the whole point. The invisibility isn't given freely. It's earned through systems. The stores know that these clients have wealth managers, accountants, structures in place that ensure payment. The invisibility is a reflection of backend stability, not a substitute for it. But if you're a high earner trying to live like this without those systems, let's be honest, you're cosplaying wealth. And eventually, the math catches up. For wealthy people, their money has already been allocated. The investments have already been made. Compounding is happening in the background, so spending, it's kind of a given because the heavy lifting is already done. But if you're a high earner without those systems, the invisible spending isn't freedom, it's drift. So let's talk a little bit about why high earners drift without meaning to. Here's the tricky part about making good money. It hides inefficiency. If you're making $50,000 a year and you overspend by $500, you feel it immediately. The account balance drops, you're scrambling, there's actual anxiety. But if you're making $400,000 a year and you overspend by $2,000, you might not even notice. That's the truth. The paycheck comes in, your account refills, life goes on. Income is actually a cushion, and that cushion makes it very easy to drift. When you get a raise, instead of increasing your savings rate, your lifestyle quietly expands to match it. You get a bonus, and instead of directing it somewhere intentional, it just absorbs into your spending. You've heard me talk about lifestyle creep, but in this case, I think that term undersells what actually is happening here. It's not just that expenses are creeping up, it's that you're losing visibility into where your money's going and why. And once you lose visibility, you lose control. And here's the cruel irony. Even though you're making more money than ever, you might actually feel less in control and be less in control. I see it all the time. You feel like you should be further ahead. You feel like you should have more money saved, or at least be able to. You look at your income and you think, where the hell is it all going? Why don't I have more to show for it? That's not a money problem. It's a systems problem. You've adopted the habits of the wealthy without the systems that make those habits work. My take, keep your habits. Just change the system. So here's what I think high earners should be thinking about. The goal is not to make money invisible. The goal is to decide where it's allowed to disappear. You don't need to track every dollar. You know I hate budgeting. But you also don't need to feel guilty about spending. Don't need to go back to pulling out your credit card, going down it line by line. But you do need to know that the important things are handled before the invisible spending starts. You need systems, not because systems are virtuous or disciplined or responsible, though they are those things. You need systems because systems are what keep that feeling of freedom sustainable forever. When you have systems, you can charge everything to the room. You can say yes to the spontaneous trip. You can live with money in the background because you know, not hope, not assume, but you know that your wealth is being built while you're not looking. So, what does this all look like when it's happening in practice? If you're a high earner and you want to stop drifting, again, you do not need a budget. Quick sidebar, because I feel very strongly about this. Budgets are for people with limited resources who need to allocate scarcity. It's a tool when you're managing not enough. It's designed to answer the question, I have X dollars. How do I stretch it across all my needs? When you're a high earner, that's not your problem. You're not trying to make ends meet. You have enough income to cover your expenses comfortably. You need something different. You need a system that decides what happens to your money before you have a chance to spend it. Some people call this paying yourself first. I think of it more like systems before lifestyle. Here's what it might look like. Every time you get paid, a percentage of your paycheck goes automatically to investments, not what's left over, not I'll move some money at the end of the month. Automatic and first. Pay yourself first. Another percentage goes to savings account that maybe you don't touch. Maybe it's for a house, maybe it's for financial independence, maybe it's just for, I want to know that I can walk away from anything at any time. It doesn't matter. What matters is that it happens without you thinking about it, having to lift a finger, or having a chance to interfere. And I feel, again, this is really, really important. Once you have a system, You need to automate it so that you can't fuck with it. And then, and only then, the rest is yours to spend, as I love to say, guilt-free. That's your invisible money. That's where you get to be frictionless and spontaneous and generous and free. But it's intentional invisibility, just like the wealthy. It's structure for the sake of true and sustainable freedom. I promise that makes all the difference. Another thing I've learned from working with people across the wealth spectrum, the difference between someone who feels wealthy and someone who's building wealth often comes down to this. Wealthy people, without fail, understand what kind of lifestyle they can actually afford. They know exactly how much they need to be moving towards their goals every month or every year. And once that number is hit, they stop thinking about it. Everything else, just noise. They don't agonize over whether they should buy the nicer bottle of wine or upgrade to the first class ticket. They've already done the work. Compounding is happening. The wealth is building. So the spending doesn't matter. If you're a high earner without an understanding of whether or not you're living a lifestyle that you can actually afford, given your larger financial goals, I guarantee every spending decision is going to feel loaded. Should I? Shouldn't I? Is this too much? Am I being irresponsible? That's exhausting. But when you know your number, when you know that you're already moving $3,000 a month towards investments or $25,000 a year towards retirement, whatever the number is, the rest becomes easy. And you're not guessing, you're not hoping, and you're definitely not drifting. You're actually free. Speaking of feeling free, I never feel more free than when I'm enjoying a great meal, cheesy transition. So I want to give you guys my best bite before we wrap. As you know, I'm a big foodie, and I always love to share something that I've eaten that's stopped me in my tracks. This week, my best bite actually comes from a dinner I had with my college roommates at the famous Monkey Bar in Manhattan over the holidays. If you know, Monkey Bar has some of the best steaks in the city, including a Wagyu porterhouse, which we did order and was epic. But my best bite is actually kind of surprising because it's not the steak. It's actually a dessert they have called the chocolate cream pie. It was creamy, but not light, more dense, kind of like the inside of a Lindor truffle, if you've ever had that. I have not stopped dreaming about it for weeks. It is so, so, so good. So if you happen to be able to snag a reservation, go and order the chocolate cream pie. Okay, time to wrap. I want to leave you with a reminder that invisible money isn't the problem. And if you're a high earner, you're at this interesting crossroads. You have enough income to live like money doesn't matter, but you don't yet have enough wealth to make that kind of invisibility safe or sustainable. So you have a choice. You can keep copying the habits of the wealthy and hope it works out, or you can build the systems first and then let money fade into the background without worrying about drifting too far. Here's the thing I realized sitting at breakfast at my fancy hotel, looking at all the other guests. The wealthy people who truly don't think about money, they're not careless. They're not reckless. They're not living in denial. They've just done the work to make sure that their money is doing what it needs to do. And on that front, I have good news for you. You don't have to be wealthy to start using their systems. You don't need a trust fund or a wealth manager or a team of accountants to make this work. You just need to decide where your money goes before you start spending it. That's the system. That's the structure. Once that's in place, you're on your way to building wealth and living a great life at the same time. One quick request before I let you go. If this episode made you think of someone, we'd love for you to share it with them. Or if you have an experience about invisible money that may resonate with others, I'd love for you to drop a comment and share it with us. We read them all. Otherwise, I truly hope this helped you pause, rethink your habits, or maybe even recognize a little drift you didn't realize was happening. Awareness is where change begins. All right. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to The F Word with Priya Malani. If you like what you heard, hit subscribe wherever you're listening and leave us a review while you're at it. We're approval junkies. Don't forget, you can find a ton of great resources, content, courses, and other freebies at stashwealth.com. Now, for the capital S stuff our lawyers want us to say. StashWealth is a registered investment advisor. Content presented is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to make an offer or solicitation for any specific securities, product, service, or strategy. Consult with a qualified investment advisor, that's us, before implementing any strategy. Investing involves risk, including the loss of principal. Past performance does not guarantee future results. There, we said it.
Did I have that up?